Welcome to another Dr. Beasley's YouTube live stream, everybody. I am Chris Racana, Director of Success for Dr. Beasley's, and I am here along with my friend Rod Kraft from Griot's Garage. Hey, Rod, thanks for joining me.
What's up, Chris?
How you doing? So just to give you guys a little bit of background, why Rod and I are getting here together, we actually met a few about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, at an Auto Geek training event. And actually, you know, we immediately bonded. You know, we're both Jeep guys. I've had CJs and JKs in my past, and you know, Rod's a huge Jeep guy as well. He actually has his own YouTube channel with his son, which is Built Different Garage. So, you know, another great channel to like and subscribe. So, and I will take this opportunity to remind all you out there, speaking of liking and subscribing, go ahead and like and subscribe to the Dr. Beasley's YouTube channel as well. You know, go ahead and click that like button, smash the like button, and, you know, don't forget to tickle the notification bell. So anyway, why are we here today, Rod? We are here because we want to talk about the future of detailing, but our next evolution of training, which is our advanced paintwork correction clinic. Now, this is something that I was inspired by other detailers who had attended not only our clinics, but other trainings, but we're looking for something higher level, more than just a simple introduction to detailing or paint correction, for people who really wanted to kind of take their paint correction game to that next level. And this is where a little bit of kismet came in, folks, because, you know, it was the second time that Rod and I happened to end up at the same training together, me for Beasley's and him for Griot's, you know, that we kind of started talking how we would, you know, very much enjoy working together. And, you know, it was that kind of, you know, conversation that kind of, you know, came into what we are now seeing with the Dr. Beasley's future of detailing with advanced paint correction, with partnering with Griot's Garage and Rod Kraft for this class. So just to introduce for those of you who might not be familiar with Rod, this is a person who has 25 plus years in the detailing industry, including 8 years as an owner of his own detail business. We're talking 19 years as a sales manager and global trainer, including working for various OEMs, including Toyota, Lexus, Mercedes-Benz. So, you know, again, this is where, you know, I had these detailers that were asking me, they wanted a higher level training available to them. And then, you know, this kind of meeting of Rod and knowing his history and his background and his encyclopedic level of knowledge of paintwork and paintwork correction, that's what really kind of brought this whole thing together. And with that, you know, again, Rod, I thank you so much for joining us here today and talking about what we're really trying to do here with Future Detailing, the Advanced Paintwork Correction Clinic. And you know, I know one thing we've talked about, but is just how we are able to pass along information, because that's, after all, what this is about. This is not product specific. This is not, you know, a certification course. This is about taking a skill set and raising it to the next level. So, I mean, for example, like Rod, what, you know, you're out there, you're talking to detailers all the time. What's something that you say, what's an SOP or a skill set that you think is undervalued or underutilized in today's detailing?
You know, it's funny, Chris, you know, in all my years of doing this, even when I started as a detailer, I didn't know anything. And I think everybody has to kind of take a step back and realize that every detailer was born without knowledge as far as detailing goes. So you always take that first step, you learn, and I'm a big proponent of absorbing as much information as you can, meaning attend as many classes as you can, read up as much information as you can. There's a lot of great information on YouTube, and there's a lot of bad information on YouTube. So I think that when you take that collective information and everything sounds like it's on par and it's uniform and everybody's getting the same result and everybody's applying that knowledge and pretty much getting the same end result, then I would follow that path. If you're hearing a bunch of hype and a bunch of stuff that everybody's saying, oh, you got to spend 800 hours on a car to do a paint correction, that's a whole nother topic. So my point is, when I started detailing, I didn't know squat, made a lot of mistakes, as every detailer should, and I mean that respectfully. So when you make those mistakes, you learn, and then eventually you start to gather all that knowledge, you put it away in your brain, and you retrieve it when you need to. So thinking about SOPs, I think the biggest challenge I see for detailers today is they're really not sure where to start their detail process. So they're hungry for knowledge. They want to learn how to detail a car properly. And the biggest challenge is they want to do it as quick as they can to get as much money in their pocket as fast as possible. And I think that's the wrong concept. I think we want to do it correctly without cutting corners and achieving the right results for the expectations of that customer. So SOPs, I think, are kind of all over the place when we talk about SOPs for whether it's an OEM, meaning, you know, original equipment manufacturer, or some of the stuff that I might have done with, say, Toyota, Lexus, Mercedes-Benz. Some of those SOPs were designed for their particular format so that they have a consistent process from start to finish. And therefore, you end up with a consistent result every single time. The challenge with detailers today, though, go ahead.
No, that's what I'm saying, and it's that consistency. Like I always kind of relate it, you know, as I like food. I'm a bit of a foodie.
Yeah.
That's judged by my roundness. But you know, you know, why do we go to our favorite restaurants? What do the best chefs do? You know, they're putting out that dish consistently. You know, time in and time again, they're putting that dish out, and it's that same kind of level of perfection and professionalism every single time. So yeah, I mean, it is about nailing that consistency for sure.
Right. And that's the challenge with detailers today is, and really not just today, but for years, ever since, you know, detailing had been around, up to a certain point though. I mean, back in the day, all you had was lacquer paint or enamel, maybe some other stuff prior to that on wood substrates, but I'm really dating the whole process now. But today it's really become a little bit more complicated, but in a good way. I say this today because I think it's a big deal. To me, it's an awesome time to be in the industry because it's turned into more of a technical science, if you want to break it down that way, but we don't want to overcomplicate it. It still comes down to the basic foundation of following basic guidelines and evaluating, et cetera, et cetera. And these are the same things we're going to go over in the class too, right?
Yeah, and that was, you know, the foundation we try to put forth with, say, you know, something like Future Detailing, our primer clinic, you know, which gives you that foundational experience. You know, this is going to be something for, you know, I really, you know, see, you know, of the 4 people that have already signed up, 4 of the 8 spots are already taken. You know, these are all professional detailers that have been, you know, either running their own business or as an employee in their business for multiple years. So, I mean, this is, again, you know, that next step in the evolution of becoming, you know, that higher level detailer and paintwork correction specialist.
Yeah, I agree. You know, I like to see detailers stepping up and taking an investment in their business, in themselves mainly. So, you know, we all know there's a lot of great classes, there's a lot of great trainers out there. I'm glad to be among the class trainers that we're going to have there. A lot of great knowledge, a lot of vast knowledge that's going to be there, including yourself and everybody else that's going to be on the roster. So I learn every time I go to a class, even though I've been doing this a long time and have taught a lot of classes. I'm always hungry for more knowledge. Typically, I learn 1 or 2 new things that I didn't know before, even after these 25 plus years of doing this. So I'm very humble when I'm around other people because I want to become a sponge and I want to absorb all that information as well.
I mean, I'm really excited about the group of people we put together for this. I mean, I think you got a diverse group of people. I mean, obviously you have someone like yourself who's been working, you know, in paint correction with paint, you know, for, you know, 30 plus years, nearly 30 years. I don't want to date you too much.
That's all right. I don't mind.
But, you know, the other great thing is, like, you know, Scott Voles from Lake Country. I mean, you want to is there anyone on the face of the earth that knows more about pads and the foam in the pads and how they're going to affect paint? Or then you have someone like Jim Lefebvre, you know, the doctor. Dr. Beasley's going to be the guy who's the chemist is going to be there. So, you know, you're talking about having access to this knowledge. So as these students are working through their processes, as they stub their toe, you know, the advantage here is instead of stubbing your toe and having to, you know, do that trial and error, try to figure out your way through it. Now at the Advanced Paint Correction Clinic, now we have, hey, ask Rod, go ahead and ask Lance, is it a chemistry issue? Is it a pad issue? We have all these experts here that are here to freely give that knowledge.
Right. And what I think is kind of neat is, you know, all these people, whether it's Chris Metcalf or Bob from Lake Country and everybody else, all the other guys that are going to be there, I think we take all that knowledge collectively, the students that'll be there as well, and then we kind of break it down in simplistic terms. You know, the goal isn't to brainwash them from a particular brand, obviously. You know, we talked early on about how this format should be, and I'm a big fan of going on a theory and technique base. Although our products are going to be there, your products are going to be there, Lake Country, Chris Metcalf from Flex. So it's great to have that that mix there, because then it lets the student touch, feel, play with, try all these different products. And that's the same way it would be whether it's an Auto Geek class or somewhere else, because it allows them to experiment and say, I really like this one over this one, because otherwise you're not going to get that exposure with just one facility that's teaching one particular brand. If that
Absolutely.
makes sense. Right?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, you get that variety to use, because again, this is, and yes, 100% with you, Rod, that this clinic is more about technique and theory. This is not about a specific product or even a product line. You know, we will be using traditional technologies as well as nano surface primers.
Right.
And you know, this is, you know, kind of leads me into, you know, how I wanted to talk about, you know, the structure of this class and how the structure of this class is going to be unique, and I think different than many other detailers who have attended other trainings might be used to, in that it's not going to follow that usual kind of lecture and then, you know, demonstrate and then, you know, practice kind of structure. You know, we're going to come in, it's a 2-day clinic, and we're going to come in on day 1. And then this is not a PowerPoint presentation on day 1. Instead of, oh, this is a dirt nib, this is this is orange peel, this is that. No, we're not going to learn it, because I was never that guy who learned well in the auditorium. You know, history of Western civilization is a wonderful thing, but I didn't need to sit in an auditorium with 300 people to learn it. The way I like to learn is hands-on. And I think with this theory, what we're going to do is we're going to have these 5-6 cars there on site. So instead of identifying the problems on a screen in a classroom format, we're going to be looking at the cars. This is this problem. This is where it's out, you know? Yeah. So I think, you know, we're going to do it actively, with students actively participating start to finish. And then day 2, I think is you know, really where students are going to make strides, because we're going to give those students, we're going to give those attendings the freedom. We're going to give them a wide berth so they can trip and fall, so we can help them back up again. So again, that's how you'll learn. So, and again, like, you know, we did other courses where, hey, yeah, you get, you know, a little 2-foot square area to try out a given product on. They're like, oh, okay, it's nice, I can get used to it, but you can't really get in a flow, you know?
I've always been, not to cut you off, but I've always been a big fan of as close to real world training as possible. You know, and of course, we've always used the story of go to your local body shop and grab a junk fender or hood and take it home and practice. That's still something I would preach every day anyways. Mm-hmm. If you have the ability to go to a shop that, you know, a painter at, let them paint some fresh paint. Fresh paint may buff out totally different than some OEM paint on a fender out of a junkyard. So I think giving them the ability to physically address and work on the same things that we're going to show them on day 1, on day 2, I think will be very helpful, so that they can truly get a hands-on experience. Mm-hmm. That's where I think you learn more. I know I do. I learn more by doing versus I still like to read. I still like to watch and observe, but I like to do because I absorb better and faster.
And that's really the theory behind this. It's not classroom. It's not lecture. We are standing around cars. We are identifying, not pictures, but we're actually on paint identifying those flaws. Then we start, obviously that's the start of the process. We identify the flaws. We're going to then, what are the tools? What are the products? What are the procedures and chemicals we're going to use to solve or to fix those flaws, you know? And also, I mean, hey, what are the acceptable tolerances here? And this is something else, you know, I think, you know, we don't get into so much in our primer course and early on, but like, how far can you go safely, you know? Right. And then there's, you know, developing your techniques. You know, how do you maximize your one step? I mean, because that is, you know, 70% of the profitability in this business is a one step. You know, most people are not paying for multiple step corrections and a wet span and all this sort of thing. A lot of these detailers are doing one step, but how do you maximize that, you know? And then of course we're going to, just because I'm super OCD and I need to finish everything out, we are going to address protection and we are going to coat these cars as well. But, you know, I thought it was really important to reinforce that, again, you know, it's learning on various tools, machines, and chemicals, you know, not just one product line, that's because there's a place for everything. You know, at a certain point, you know, there's going to be that car that you need a traditional compound for, and then there's going to be that other car where, hey, you know what, a nano surface primer would be ideal with this. And that's really what we're trying to get into and bring all these people together, because in the end, you know, a rising tide raises all ships. And that's what we want to do. If we raise the detailer skill level, you know, they're gonna be able to provide more services. They're gonna have happier customers. They're gonna refer them other customers. And then if they're able to do more details, Griot's, Dr. Beasley's, Lake Country, Flex, we're all able to supply those detailers more products. So it's a win-win for everyone.
Yeah, and I think in the long run, the goal is to to be able to take the detailer's knowledge, whatever level that might be at when they come into class, and boost that level of knowledge through confidence and understanding the process. And then we're going to talk about some variables. I'm not sure if I even shared this with you yet, but something I've always learned early on in my previous career with another company was, and as I kind of went through the growing pains of detailing, is understanding variables that are within the process of detailing. There's some you can control and there's some you can't. You have to work with the ones you can't and adapt accordingly, whether that's lighting, hardness of paint, softness of paint, product, everything, tool that you're using. So there's a lot of variables, technique as well too. So if we can get them to understand those variables and not just take the fact that they learn something new and go right away and raise their prices because they know more, you still have to apply that knowledge, right? So there's one thing to learn, but you also have to know what you're doing after you've learned that knowledge, right? And that comes with time and expectations, I should say, experience. And so that takes a little bit of time too, right?
Yes. And that's where we're going to tailor this course. I mean, obviously, advanced paint correction. We are, again, 4 of the 8 tickets or so are well experienced, multiple years experience as a professional detailer already. So, when we about a week or two ahead of this, I will send out an intake survey and where we are going to ask some questions of those people who are attending. What do they want to learn? Because we're talking everything from wet sanding, as far as a technique to address spot issues, so we're talking everything from that, from multi-step corrections to one-step corrections to protection. But, I think it's important to mention to everyone who's considering this out there that we are going to tailor to the course to the students that are in attendance, so if there's specific things that you guys want to see, that's who's paying. You guys are out there paying for this course. We want to tailor it to you. But again, this is not the course to come in and learn the difference between a rotary, a DA, and an orbital. We have other courses for that. This is, again, really directed towards, industry professionals that want to raise their game, because, we're also trying to teach in an environment that's geared towards pros, so when we come in on day 2, we're going to have certain expectations. We're going to expect that that car that we designate is a one-step with a 1-year coating or something like that. We're going to have expectations that, like detailing professionals, you're going to be able to knock that out in a reasonable amount of time and not take an entire morning on a one-step. Again, and this is part of introducing procedures, standard operating procedures to get that kind of efficiency out of your detailing.
Yeah, I think that's smart.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think that's smart that you're going to send out a survey asking the incoming students what they want to learn, because typically in my training, I would actually have a dry erase board at the front of the classroom, and I would go down, number 1, why are you here? And I would ask everybody, and I would go around the entire room and ask them what they're there to learn, and I would write that down, and we would focus on all those topics, and then some, of course. But that is the heart of everything to me. That's why they're there. I could preach to them about everything I think they need to hear, but I would rather preach them what they should hear and what they want to hear. If that makes sense.
Right? Absolutely. And I think one of the other unique things that we're planning for this clinic, again, when we get into day 2, is, again, students, we're going to have these cars, we're going to split students up on cars. So we're talking, a maximum of 8 students here. So really no more than 4 people on a car. It'll probably be more of the time, 2 or 3 people on a car. But again, that's going to allow the students, like, you're not working on a 2-foot section of a test hood. You're going to get that hood, a fender, and a couple of doors, and again, that's going to allow these students to really, I think, flourish, and really be able to push their skill set forward to the higher level.
Right. I agree. Yeah, absolutely.
So, I know, a couple of things, like, for example, I know actually one of our students, Jared, from Tidy Car Sheboygan, he's talking about bringing his Chevy SSR. I believe it was actually a family car. It's actually being repainted, or he's having some panels repainted. So we're going to have some fresh paint there. I have another car, I believe, an early 2000s 911. It was, again, his father's car now to him, but it's a car that's been, driven quite a bit. So we got some old German Porsche paint to deal with. Other examples, some cars, we have a mid-90s AMG C36 that a friend of mine bought. That's going to be a quick flip. He's going to do the mechanical work, and we're going to put some lipstick on the pig and really get that thing shining so he can get that car flipped. So, we're trying to present a lot of different issues, water spotting, poor paint jobs. We have my other friend, he's bringing I think it's a 1970 Pontiac Granville that was originally green. No, it was red, then repainted green, and now is repainted black and repainted poorly. So
wow.
Again, we're trying to give.
Yep. We're definitely going to put the paint meter on that one and see how thick that bad boy is.
Absolutely. So yeah,
I can't wait to see that one.
It's gonna be a lot of fun, I think.
It's good to have a cross section, Chris, so that you have a good mix of everything. Because typically that's a detailer's world, unless you work in a dealership or a body shop where pretty much the paint is going to be the same paint on a regular basis. There's not a lot of variety, right? Other than the shape of the car or the color of the car, but that doesn't matter if it's all clear coat, right? So I think it's good to have a good cross section of different things so that they all have the ability to play with different obstacles, I'll call them, and challenges.
Absolutely. And that's what I'm probably most excited to get into. And I'm going to be learning as well. Like you said, I've been attending ever since I was brought aboard at Dr. Beasley's. Every time I attend one of these trainings, sure, I'm presenting, but I'm learning just as much. So I'm super excited to learn some new techniques and skills here as well. And again, I think this is where I'm so excited to work with you, Rod, because you and I are on the same page here that, listen, in the end, it's about, passing along that information, passing along that knowledge where we can help everyone bring their skill set to the next level. And that's what I've always appreciated about you. Every time I've watched you kind of train at these various events, I know you kind of tailor what you're talking about to the audience, and what their skill level is. But I've always just been so impressed how you avail yourself to the students. And that's what really inspired me, this whole concept of day 2 of being a little less instruction, demo, and then, okay, now you go do it. It's going to be giving the students the freedom, because again, I've watched you and I've seen you how you'll watch a student working on a panel, but yet you'll come up and then give them some pointers, some way, hey, you can do this a little bit better, a little bit more efficiently. And I think that's really, what we're going after here is giving the students that freedom on that day 2 to really dive into that project. But again, that freedom to skin their knee and let us help them stand back up again.
Absolutely. And, Chris, for what it's worth, everybody who knows me personally and my background, they know I'm very passionate about cars. I grew up around cars. I've got 2 sons. The one son, my older son, who he and I spend most of the time with, it's actually his YouTube channel, Built Different Garage. And it's really just kind of an overview and an exposure to our hobby and our passion for the automotive industry. So everything is done at our shop, which is at our house. We film everything right there. And it's all about who we are and what we do as far as our love of vehicles, and whether it's Jeeps or off-roading or some sort of race car or whatever. And so when it comes to the detailing side of things, I like to share my passion for detailing, because that's how I got started being young around cars. And I started working for my brother who had a shop, not to bore everybody with this, but I started detailing for him on the side. And next thing you know, I got bit by the bug. And years and years later, I started a business, did that for 8 years. And then I went to work for another company for 19 years. I'm still going strong. I don't see myself quitting ever. I think right now I'm just now kind of getting started. It's kind of sad, even after 6+ years with Griot's. We're in a great place in the industry as a company, because we get to really kind of go to market with all these really cool products, and being a family-owned business and making our own products, we can turn that over a lot quicker. So I think that's a really cool thing. And so when I go to these classes, I want to share that passion with all these students, and not just shove the brand down their throat, but shove my passion and expand on that with them, if that makes sense. Right. So I hope that comes across that way, and I hope somebody tells me otherwise if that's not the case. No,
it's obvious that you love what you do, and that's, I'm living the dream too. I feel like, after 25+ years in the furniture industry, to have a reset of my life priorities and to be focused on only what makes me happy, and that's primarily keeping my kids happy is what makes me most happy. But when it came to profession, you know, I knew it had to be car related, and detailing was something that I've had a passion for since I was mobile detailing in high school and college. So, you know, I'm excited to get this together. And like you said, I mean, what a great group of people we're going to have to learn from too. I mean, you know, from Dr. Beasley's, we're going to have our authorized trainer from Knoxville, Tennessee, Lance Beckett, who's his outfit is Mirror Image Tennessee. You know, this guy, you know, he does a lot of show car work. You know, there is, I don't think there's a detailer in North America that has installed more nanoresin pro coatings than he has. So, you know, excited to have him there. We're going to have, of course, the doctor himself, Jim Lefebvre. He'll be joining us. So, you know, any of those questions about the chemistry or the you know, why, where, when, and how, you know, he'll be available to all the students as that. And then, you know, let's not forget, you know, Lake Country, our host. You got, you know, IDA Hall of Famer Bob Eichelberg, guy's a legend in the industry. Also Bob Myers, who many detailers remember from Pro Products. He's now with Lake Country, so he'll be there joining us as well. Yep. Scott Voles, you know, as I said earlier, I mean, the guy, is there anyone that knows more about pads than Scott? I don't think so. But then let's not forget about Chris Metcalf from Flex as well. You know, I mean, he's going to be coming out sharing all his knowledge on the Flex tools. And then you know, of course, there's two other guys that are going to be there. Oh, these two guys are going to be there. So I think it's a great lineup of trainers we got.
Yeah.
So
I'm excited. You know, I always love getting around. Go ahead.
No, I just want to remind everyone that, you know, we're talking September 29th and 30th is the class. We always host a optional reception dinner the night before. So on Wednesday the 28th, we'll host a reception dinner at the Crafty Cow in Oconomowoc. But then we will be spending 2 days at Lake Country on the 29th and 30th for training. It is an all-inclusive course. So basically, you just got to get yourself to Mitchell International Airport. Airport code MKE. You get there, and then we will handle transportation. We'll get you from the airport to Oconomowoc. We feed you, we train you, and then we even get you back to the airport after graduation Friday evening. So, I mean, super excited about getting this together. And I said with an incredible group of trainers who are all, you know, super pumped about, you know, getting together and sharing information with, you know, professional detailers that are looking to, you know, up their game.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, Chris. I can't wait. Super excited.
I'm super excited as well. So let's see. I mean, I don't know if we got any questions rolling in, guys. Anything? All right. So we're gonna let's do a little Q&A thing. So if you want to feed those questions over to me there, Victor, I'll repeat them, and then Rod or I will give our best possible answers.
So our first question from Robert Lara. He's wondering, will this be recorded? I assume he's talking about the clinic for those that cannot attend live.
Okay, so William, who is it? Robert Lara? I want to know if the clinic was be recorded for those of you that cannot attend it live. No, it will not be recorded. This is something, you know, I am an advocate for online training, but you can only go so far. And if we're talking advanced training here, Rod, I mean, how are you going to do advanced on a camera? You really can't.
Yeah. Well, you know, so there's also some proprietary stuff that, you know, obviously that's why you're charging for the class. And I get it. You know, I would love to be able to sit at my computer and watch something live if possible. So maybe that's something to consider down the road. I don't know, for you guys to charge for that, if that's even a possibility. But you would have to have a special code. I won't get into the details of that. But no, I think being there in person, because you get more of a hands-on experience, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's really what the center point of this class is, that even compared to other clinics where it's a lot of learning by looking, this is truly going to be a class where it is hands-on, very little classroom, if at all. So let's see if there are any other questions, Victor?
Yeah, actually, I apparently misunderstood Robert's question. He was wondering about the stream itself.
Robert was just wondering if this live stream was going to be recorded. Yes, this will be recorded, available on YouTube for all eternity, for you to go back and review when I am old and in a wheelchair. And you can...
All right, we got a question from George Randington.
George Randington.
If Magic Man Christian will be there.
Magic. All right, so we had so there is at Simon's Detail. We have Christian Velasquez, who I have dubbed the Magic Man. and he's actually around here somewhere. I don't see him that I can drag him on camera right now. But unfortunately, no, Christian is pretty much tethered to Simon's detail. You know, he is part of the shop. So unfortunately, we will not have the Magic Man up in Oconomowoc for this visit. But like I said, we do have many other great detailers. You know, like I said, including from Dr. Beasley's Lance Beckett, who's an actually incredible detailer. He's a long-time, 20+ year guy. All right. So any other questions over there? Okay. Sure. All right. So we're just going to see if anyone, give you a last call. If anyone else has any questions, I mean, just feel free to go ahead and enter them in the comments section down below. Again, I just kind of wanted to, you know, review the specifics of the class. This is taking place at Lake Country Manufacturing. So that is in Oconomowoc, Wisconsin. The cost is $2,000. But remember, that is a all-inclusive. So that includes your hotel. That also includes your food. So we got you for breakfast. You're going to have breakfast at the hotel. We're going to have lunch. And then actually the dinner, you know, again, you know, going back to my how I like food kind of thing. Food is an important part. I mean, I am Italian by lineage, and, you know, food's kind of our thing, right? So, you know, we're going to do the reception dinner on Wednesday night at the Crafty Cow. Thursday night, we're actually doing a tailgate. You know, we figured, you know, when we're here in Chicago and we do these trainings, we do deep dish pizza party. Being up in Wisconsin, we're getting some brats, we're getting some beer, we're going to bust out the grills right outside the shop at Lake Country, and we're going to have a brat and beer tailgate party right awesome. There in Oconomowoc, Wisconsin.
Oh, I can't wait for that.
Yeah, I'm pumped for that. So that'll be Thursday night. Then, of course, Friday, breakfast again at the hotel. Then we'll feed you some lunch as well. And then we'll do graduation Friday evening. Should be closing up hopefully around, you know, 5, 6 o'clock at the latest for graduation. And then, you know, then you're on your way. We'll get you. We're going to have a shuttle that goes back to Mitchell International Airport. So hopefully you can get your late night flight out back home and get home to the wife and kids for the weekend, hopefully. So at least that's my plan. Hopefully, you know, hopefully have still a family weekend intact. So, but again, this is something that, you know, I personally, you know, this has been one of my passion projects. Something that, you know, Rod and I, like I said, we kind of talked about this months ago, but, you know, now that it's actually coming to fruition, you know, again, this is just, you know, like I said before, I'm living the dream working in this industry. Having this training class come together is like, you know, realizing a dream inside a dream. Like, absolutely phenomenal. Can't wait to do this, because again, this is something that detailers have been asking us for. I think there's a market out there for this, in that, you know, again, for that detailer who has, like, I understand the difference between an orbital and a DA, you know, but like, I want to be able to, how do I get my process more efficient? How can I get my one step? How can I get, you know, 2-step type results, but out of a 1-step process with a more efficient timing to be able to provide a greater value for my customer? You know, and I think that's really one of the subjects I'd love to dive into in depth with
I agree.
This
I agree. That's just one of the many things that we're going to cover as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Any other questions, guys?
We have more of a general detailing question from Robert. I don't know if that's
All right, we'll take one last question from Robert on more of a general detailing question, but you got us. You got a captive audience, so why not? Let's rock and roll.
So this is in regards to correction. He specified NSPC1, but I think this could apply to any AIO.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering, how long after using NSPC1 can I use a maintenance ceramic spray? Something like advanced coat.
Okay. So the question was, how long after using NSPZ1, so that's Dr. Beasley's AIO, or all-in-one product, can they use the maintenance spray? And I think we can kind of generalize this out. I mean, I know from the Dr. Beasley's product standpoint, you know, we recommend quarterly maintenance, you know, and that's, you know, assuming a 10,000 mile a year car that's garage kept. But I mean, certainly, you know, after 1 hour, if you want to take your advanced coat, you know, and give it a little booster 1 hour after you're complete with Z1, you're good to go. I mean, what do you think, Rod, about using a kind of booster or a maintenance spray right after applying an AIO?
Well, so I think for your process and your particular chemistry, you know, I would follow those guidelines accordingly. And let's just say it's our new ceramic all-in-one, which is something we just launched not too long ago. If that is being used on the finish for correction and protection, which is all in one step, we're going to recommend that after you've applied the ceramic all-in-one, you're going to wait maybe about 24 hours and apply our ceramic 3-in-1. Can you apply it right away? Yes, but we would rather prefer that first application to go through somewhat of a curing process. Let it wait for about 24 hours, reapply it with the ceramic 3-in-1, which is our spray-on formula, and then you're done. You're protected for as long as you can imagine with our products.
Yeah. And I think we're probably along the same line. I mean, general, our guidelines are similar, you know, where it's 1 hour undisturbed, 24 to 48 hours dry, 2 weeks no washing. Generally, we want, like you were saying, you want to let the initial coating get to a full cure before, you know, we start putting toppers and stuff on that. I just know like some, you know, a hack that some professional detailers will do, you know, you always get that customer who's pressuring you. They want the car out, this and that. And, you know, you can't hold it for a full 2 days. A lot of times what we'll do is, you know, hold it for that 24-hour period. And then we recommend put that maintenance spray on top of it as a sacrificial layer if they think the customer's going to get, you know, in a little bit of a rainstorm or something like that.
Right. And there again, I think that's where you have to kind of base your work around the customer's expectations and then set those guidelines. And so once you do that, I think the customer is going to fall into place and they're going to understand the process.
Absolutely. So let me do one last. Any other questions, guys? FoD related or otherwise? One. All right, let's do. We'll give it one final call for questions, and while we're waiting to see if anyone wants to type in a question, I'm going to take this opportunity to address something that is another passion project of mine, and that's trying to educate America and how to drive. So, people, help me educate America. Let's review this. If you're driving in the left lane and you're not passing anyone, it's time to move over on the right. So, we have left lane for passing, middle lane for cruising, right lane for entering and exiting the expressway. That is one of my biggest things in the world, Rod. I just like, why must I sit here, do the speed limit in the left lane because this guy will not move over? It drives me absolutely insane. So I'm hoping by Jim giving me this venue with Dr. Beasley's, I've invented my new little clothes here, and hopefully I can make a difference in Americans' driving habits. We'll see.
Yeah, I would say that's a pet peeve of mine as well. And I think what's even worse is people that are not even doing the speed limit. Okay, just stay home. Okay, unless there's
This is where I wish they would pick it like the Autobahn, you know, because in the Autobahn, when you drive the Autobahn, it's tailgating, it's not using your turn signal. That's what they talk about in Europe. Like it's like they could care if you're speeding, care less, but you know, it's so frustrating.
Look, there may be an underlying issue as to why people do certain things on the road, but if you're a driver, you have a regular driver's license, you took a driver's ed course and passed it. If you're fearful of driving, just stay home. You know,
please.
Seriously. Yeah,
please.
That's just me. That's my 2 cents.
I love it. All right, Victor. Excuse me. All right, Victor. Anything? We're all good? All right, man. Well, Rod, great to see you again, my friend. I can't wait to see you in person in about, what do we got, 5-6 weeks out?
Yeah, I'll be here before you know it.
All right, man. I will see you in Oconomowoc. Again, I just want to remind everyone, links and everything for the clinic below. It is the future of detailing advanced paint correction. Again, this is for experienced professional detailers who want to raise their game. Don't come to us if you're like, hey, I just found this Porter cable buffer in my garage that my dad had. I want to learn how to do this. No, sorry, kids, that ain't for you. This is for professional detailers who want to advance their skill set. So September 29th and 30th, Oconomowoc, Wisconsin. Get your tickets at drbeasleys.com. Join Rod from Griot's Garage. Join Chris Metcalf from Flex. Bob, and Scott from Lake Country, Jim and myself from Dr. Beasley's, as well as our authorized trainer, Lance. So it's going to be a great class. We're halfway sold out, so I expect those tickets are going to start popping pretty quick here soon. So go ahead, folks, get on those. Go ahead and purchase those tickets, and we'll see you in Oconomowoc.
Chris, thanks. Victor, thanks for your help. All right.